You ever notice how they scream the loudest when they're guilty? How the ones with the dirtiest hands throw stones the fastest? That's chaos, kid. But not the kind that needs fixing. The kind that needs to be ignored. And you're trying to fix everything, aren't you? Trying to calm their storms. Explain yourself to people who've already made up their minds. Prove your worth to hands that never meant to hold you. That's your first mistake. You keep walking into rooms where your soul don't belong just because you're hoping someone will see your value. But let me tell you something dark and clear. They saw it. They just didn't want to respect it. You think silence is weakness? Nah, it's a weapon, a loaded one. They expect you to scream back, break down, lose control, start begging for clarity from people who thrive on confusion. But when you go silent, it shakes them. It kills their performance. It burns their scripts. Because their chaos, it feeds off your reaction. And every time you answer their mess, you're handing them the match to set you on fire. You're explaining yourself to cowards, defending yourself to the insecure, opening up to people who only want to poke holes in you. That's like pouring gasoline on a flame and hoping it turns into water. See, they don't hate you, not really. They hate how you don't need their validation anymore, that you stopped playing their game. You used to break yourself to fit into their circus, didn't you? Smiling while bleeding, nodding while breaking. But now you've stopped showing up to their little puppet show, and suddenly you're cold, rude, changed. Nah, you're just finally real. You stopped entertaining their chaos, and that terrifies them more than any insult you could throw. Because they don't know what to do with a version of you they can't control. They'll talk about you, twist your silence into stories, make you the villain in their play while painting themselves the saint. Let them. That's all noise. Let them play chess with their demons while you build empires in peace. See, discipline looks like arrogance to the undisciplined. Maturity looks like distance to the emotionally immature. And self-respect, that looks like rebellion to people who counted on your silence being submissive. But you ain't gonna fold this time, right? Good. 'Cause here's the thing. The world ain't gentle and people ain't saints. You'll be blamed for storms you didn't cause and expected to drown quietly. But you ain't drowning. Not now. Not ever. You're learning to walk through the rain with your head up and your mouth shut. People will try to make you choose between being respected or being liked. Don't fall for it. Respect ain't given to the loudest. It's given to the most unbothered. The one who doesn't chase. The one who doesn't flinch. The one who can smile in chaos and not lose his damn mind. That's power. That's terror to the weak. They don't fear your anger. They fear your control. They fear that you can hear every insult, feel every cut, remember every betrayal, and still not break, still not react, still not lower yourself to their level. You ever seen a lion bark back at dogs? Me neither. That's not pride. That's instinct. A lion don't explain itself to mutts looking for a moment of relevance. And you've been playing in the mud with pigs, hoping they treat you like royalty. But pigs don't care about your crown. They just want you dirty like them. So stay clean, stay silent, stay focused. Ignore their chaos. Not because it doesn't hurt, but because you're too busy becoming something they can never break. Let them scream. Let them lie. Let them choke on their noise. You walk away, quiet and undefeated. They'll bait you with guilt. They'll lace their words with just enough truth to make you second guess your strength. You've changed, they'll say, as if evolution is a crime, as if you were meant to stay the same broken version of yourself that served their comfort. But here's the truth, the kind that stings and sets you free. Growth offends the stagnant. Your silence is confrontation to the ones who used to manipulate you with chaos. It reminds them that you see now. You see past their tricks, their guilt trips, their sudden kindness after cruelty. And nothing scares the manipulator more than the moment their puppet cuts the strings and walks away, not with fury, but with calm. A calm that says, you don't control me anymore. You used to need closure, didn't you? Needed them to explain why they hurt you, why they lied, why they disappeared when you were at your worst. You begged for answers like they were keys to peace. But now you're learning something far more powerful. Closure is a trap. It's just another round of the same game, wrapped in fake apologies and hollow explanations. Let them keep their reasons. Let them talk to mirrors. You don't need to go back and clean up the mess they left. That mess wasn't yours to begin with. You're not a janitor for broken souls who refuse to sweep their own demons. Let them sit in the chaos they created. Let them rot in the confusion they once used to control you. You're not responsible for their healing. You're responsible for your escape. There's something sick in this world, something quiet and common. It's the way people expect you to bleed quietly, to hurt politely, to struggle without inconvenience. And if you dare to express it, if you dare to speak about your pain, they'll call you dramatic. They'll mock you, minimize you, tell you it's not that deep. But the same ones who laughed at your wounds will later blame you for the walls you built. That's how the cycle works. They break you, then shame you for not being whole. But listen to me. Your silence now, it's not weakness. It's protection. It's not avoidance. It's survival. You're not running away. You're choosing peace. And peace ain't loud. Peace is cutting off conversations that go nowhere. It's letting people think you're rude instead of draining your soul to be understood. You want to be strong? Then stop reacting. Stop giving them the power to pull you into their storm every time they're bored, angry, or empty. You don't owe them a seat at your table just because they used to eat with you. Loyalty has limits. And the moment they feed you disrespect, the contract's void. Cut them off. No announcement, no drama, no explanation. Just disappear. Vanish like you never existed. And let that silence echo louder than any argument you could have had. That's how you win. Not with revenge. Not with loud exits. But with quiet, brutal distance. Because the most dangerous man in the room is the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't talk, and doesn't care what they think anymore. And they'll say you changed. Smile, nod, agree. You did. You stopped being the one who begged for love from people who only knew how to take. You stopped watering dead plants. You stopped setting yourself on fire to keep cowards warm. That's not bitterness. It's intelligence. It's survival in a world where kindness is currency and silence is armor. Let them talk. Let them say you're heartless, cold, distant. Let them make you the villain in their little fairy tales. You don't owe them your side of the story. Let the chaos consume them. You're not here to be liked. You're here to rise. And sometimes rising means walking away without a sound, without a look back, without a drop of mercy. Because peace is built on the bones of the noise you refused to answer. You ever realize how loud they get when you finally go quiet? That's not coincidence. That's panic. See, your silence exposes what their noise tried to bury. They used to control you through guilt, through pressure, through pretending they cared just enough to keep you close, but not enough to treat you right. And when you stop dancing to their tune, when you stop answering their late-night manipulations or giving them the reaction they crave, suddenly they lose control. That's when they start acting up, talking behind your back, throwing dirt on your name, sending little jabs wrapped in fake concern. Not because you hurt them, but because you stopped letting them hurt you. That silence, it's a declaration of war to people who were feeding off your chaos. But don't you dare go back to explain. Don't you dare think their sudden interest in your life means they've changed. People don't change that fast. They adapt. They adjust the mask. They study what hurt you last time and sharpen it. This time, they'll smile wider, be more patient, say all the right things, until you lower your guard, and then they strike again. And that's on you if you let them. Fool me once, right? But twice? That's a choice. So here's the rule. Trust patterns, not promises. Watch behavior, not words. And above all, ignore their chaos. Because when someone shows you who they are, even in a whisper, believe it the first damn time. You ain't a rehab center for people who refuse to get better. You're not a mirror for broken souls to see themselves clearer. You're not a stepping stone, or a second chance, or a safety net. You're done. Let me tell you a truth the world avoids. Most people don't want to be fixed. They want someone to bleed with them, to sit in their mess and call it home. Misery loves company because it can't survive isolation. But you weren't born to sit in the dirt. You were made to rise. And that rise? It's ugly. It's lonely. It's quiet. You'll lose people. People you thought were forever. People you defended. People you gave everything to. And that loss, it'll burn. But let it. Because not everyone can go where you're headed. And the ones who drag you down will always resist your flight. You can't carry dead weight and expect to fly, so cut the rope, let the noise fall. Let the chaos scream. You owe them nothing. They'll say you forgot them, that you abandoned them, that you're selfish now. Let them. That's projection. That's them watching you do what they couldn't. Heal, building, grow. That's their insecurity speaking. You didn't abandon them, you saved yourself. You didn't forget them, you remembered your worth. And that scares them, because deep down, they know the truth. They never deserved the version of you they got. They never earned the loyalty, the love, the time. They just got it because you didn't know better. But now you do. And the moment you stop giving freely, they panic. Because you were never the problem. Your kindness was just misused. Now here you are, quiet, focused, unreachable. And that, right there, is the greatest revenge. Not rage, not revenge plots, not trying to prove a point. No, no. The greatest revenge is peace. The kind they can't touch. The kind that doesn't need validation, doesn't need the spotlight, doesn't need an audience. Just you, evolving, leveling up in silence, while they choke on their own noise. That's power. That's victory. That's what happens when you finally understand. Ignoring their chaos isn't weakness. It's the highest form of strength. You know what's funny? They call you heartless the moment you stop letting them break your heart. They paint you as cold the second your warmth is no longer available on demand. You give and they take. You explain and they twist. You stay and they push. But the second you choose silence, the moment you choose distance, suddenly you're the problem. That's how distorted their logic is. They'll poke at you, hurt you, mock you, then blame you for the silence that follows. But don't you dare let that pull you back in. Because here's what they don't tell you. Silence isn't the absence of care. It's the presence of self-respect. It's you choosing not to argue with people committed to misunderstanding you. It's you refusing to set yourself on fire just to prove you're warm. They think your silence means they won. Let them think that. Let them dance around in that illusion while you build yourself in the dark. You ain't here to convince anyone anymore. You're not explaining what they should have known. If they didn't see your value when you were breaking yourself to show it, then they sure as hell won't see it now that you're whole. And even if they do, so what? Let them see you rise and choke on the memory of what they lost. But don't you ever go back to be understood. You're not noise. You're not chaos. You're not confusion. You're clarity. But clarity only makes sense to those who are clear within themselves. And most of them, they're just mess wrapped in fake smiles. You want to know why your silence bothers them so much? Because it's louder than anything they've ever said. It means they can't get to you anymore. They can't push your buttons. They can't make you chase. It means you've seen through them. And there's nothing more terrifying to a manipulator than being seen. Your silence is exposure. It tells the truth they've been hiding behind their performance. That's why they act out now. Because chaos was never the problem. It was the tool, the weapon. And now that it doesn't work, they're powerless. That silence, that's your power. And if you use it right, it'll say everything you never had to scream. Some people aren't looking for peace. They're looking for control. And if they can't control you through affection, they'll try guilt. If guilt doesn't work, they'll go quiet and wait for you to come crawling. But when none of that works, they'll collapse, because they're not built for your silence. They're not built for your peace. You were never the weak one. They just mistook your kindness for obedience. But now, you ain't obeying. You're observing, calculating, moving, alone maybe, but never lost. Because here's the dark truth. Peace costs people. You'll lose the ones who only knew how to love the broken version of you. You'll lose the ones who needed your weakness to feel strong. Let them go. You don't need them to finish this war. You don't need them to reach that throne. This is the part where you stand still while everything around you burns and you don't even blink. That's not numbness. That's awareness. You're finally seeing that most of their chaos had nothing to do with you. They were broken before you walked in. They just used your presence to hide from their own reflection. But you've got no more time for distractions. You're not running in circles, trying to save people who only know how to drown. Let them go. Let the noise fade. Let the bridges burn. The silence left behind, that's your battlefield. That's where your real story begins. And now that you've tasted that silence, real silence, the kind that ain't just quiet, but peaceful, you can't go back, can you? You can't unsee what you saw. You can't unknow the truth. You walked through their chaos for years, thinking it was love, thinking it was loyalty, thinking maybe if you just gave a little more, tried a little harder, bled a little deeper, they'd finally care. But now you see it for what it was. Noise. Empty, selfish noise. And it never had anything to do with you. It was about their control, their ego, their need to be the center while making you feel like you were lucky just to orbit them. And when you finally stopped spinning, when you got quiet and stood still, they lost gravity. That's what silence does. It breaks the illusion. People love you when you're easy to manipulate, when you're predictable, when your emotions are tied to their moods. But let me tell you something. The second you detach, the second you stop needing their approval or reacting to their drama, you become dangerous. You become untouchable. Not because you're cold, but because you're done. And done is powerful. Done is the moment you stop explaining yourself to people who already decided to misunderstand you. Done is when you stop revisiting chapters that almost killed you. Done is when their chaos becomes background noise to the empire you're building in silence. You ever notice how they never liked the version of you that had boundaries? How they vanished the moment you stopped being useful? That's not love, that's convenience. You were a service, a supply, a fixer. But the moment you needed something back, some effort, some honesty, some damn respect, they pulled back, gave you less, made you question if you were asking for too much. And that's the real game. They break you, then convince you it's your fault for bleeding. But not anymore. Not now. Now your silence is a wall. And not just any wall, a fortress, high, cold, guarded, not to keep people out, but to protect the version of you they never deserved. They'll miss you. Oh, believe me, they will. Not the real you, because they never bothered to meet that one. No, they'll miss the version of you that tolerated the lies, forgave too fast, picked up the pieces, made excuses for them when they were dead wrong. That's what they'll crave, that soft, desperate you. But you buried that version. You put it to rest. You gave it a funeral, even if it was in the silence of your mind. And now, you walk like a ghost through the places you once begged to be seen. And when they look at you now, they won't know who you are. Because this version don't need to be liked. This version don't respond to chaos. This version builds empires in the shadows, while their noise dies in the light. So let them spiral, let them rage, let them run in circles trying to get your attention. You just keep moving, quiet, calm, focused. That's the greatest revenge. Not anger, not confrontation, stillness. Because nothing unsettles the chaotic more than a man who's no longer moved by madness. You want to win? Then stay silent. Watch everything. Say nothing. Move when it's time. Let their words hang in the air unanswered. Let their drama collapse with no one to clap for it. You've outgrown their stage. You've seen what it costs to dance for an audience that only claps when you're bleeding. So now, you build in silence. You become the storm that no one sees coming. And when they finally look up from their chaos and see what you've become, they'll understand. Not through your words, not through your screams, but through the silence that followed your final goodbye. And that, my friend, will be louder than anything you ever said. You know what silence really is? It's discipline. It's choosing not to destroy what you could easily burn. It's having every reason to explode, every right to retaliate, and still not moving, not flinching, not giving them the satisfaction. That's what kills them. Because they wanted chaos. They expected it. They pushed every button, said every word, played every sick little game, hoping you'd break, hoping you'd lash out, scream, beg, cry. Anything that proved they still had power over you. But when you didn't, when you stood there and gave them nothing but a dead stare and a locked jaw, that's when they knew. The leash snapped. The control was gone. You weren't the same anymore. And that silence, that's what broke them. It takes strength to walk away from chaos without dragging it behind you. To stop trying to fix people who don't even think they're broken. You wanted peace, and you thought maybe if you just kept giving, they'd find it too. But you were trying to save someone drowning who never wanted to swim. You were offering light to someone addicted to the dark. And the more you gave, the more they took. They didn't want healing. They wanted company in their misery. And the moment you tried to rise, they held you by the ankle. That's why they fear your silence now, because it means they can't reach you anymore. You're no longer in the pit with them. You're above it, watching, distant, clean. And don't get it twisted. There's pain in that peace. The kind that creeps in at night when you're alone. The kind that whispers, maybe they weren't that bad. Maybe you overreacted. Maybe you're the problem. That's the trap. That's the poison. But don't drink it. Don't entertain it. Because here's the truth. Most can't stomach. Sometimes, the people you'd take bullets for are the ones behind the trigger. And the second you stop being useful, they switch the target. That's not love. That's leeching. That's consumption. They don't love you. They love the version of you that makes their lives easier. But now, you're no longer easy. You're no longer available. And that absence, that silence, it's driving them mad. You ever sit in a room full of people and feel more alone than when you're actually alone? That's what it feels like when you're surrounded by chaos. When everyone talks, but no one hears. When everyone touches, but no one feels. That's when silence becomes a sanctuary. That's when you realize the loudest place in the world is the heart that never got answered. But now you've changed the game. You're no longer trying to be heard. You're no longer screaming into empty souls. You're no longer wasting words on ears that only listen when it benefits them. You've gone silent, not because you've got nothing to say, but because they've proven they're not worth saying it to. Let them call you distant. Let them say you disappeared, that you got cold, that you shut down. Good. Let them. Because they never cared when you were breaking, when you were carrying the weight, when you were begging with your eyes while smiling with your mouth. They only noticed when you left. They only cared when the well dried up. And now they miss the water they wasted. They miss the version of you that needed them. But you're done needing. Now you choose. And when silence is a choice, that's power. That's not running away. That's walking away on your terms. So ignore their chaos. Let the noise echo. Let them talk. Let them twist your silence into whatever narrative helps them sleep at night. You're not their savior anymore. You're not their emotional trash bin. You're not their fix. You're your own force now. Quiet, focused, unreachable. And that silence, that's the beginning of everything they'll regret losing. They'll pretend they don't notice your silence. They'll act like your absence doesn't sting. But it does. It rips through them. Because deep down, they know what they did. They know they lost something real. Not because you screamed, not because you slammed a door, but because you stopped knocking. That's what haunts them. You didn't beg. You didn't chase. You just vanished. No goodbye, no closure. Just a void where your light used to be. And the thing about people who live in chaos, they never realize the damage they've done until there's nothing left to damage. They thought you'd always be there, always answering, always forgiving, always showing up. But you've grown now. You're different. You've learned that love without respect is just another form of bondage. And you're free now. You walked through hell, didn't you? Smiling, helping, giving, while your soul screamed in silence. You broke down in bathrooms, fell asleep with tears in your throat, showed up for people who wouldn't crawl an inch for you. And they called you strong, brave, kind. But behind closed doors, they took advantage. They pushed and kept taking. And when you finally cracked, when you finally needed someone to show up for you, silence. Nothing. That's how you know who's real. Not when you're giving, but when you're broken. And now. Now you owe no one anything. Not an explanation, not a warning, not a single ounce of your energy. Because the people who made you beg for crumbs don't deserve a seat at your feast. You ever notice how peaceful it gets when you stop explaining yourself? When you stop texting first? When you stop forcing conversations, holding up dead friendships, playing therapist to people who'd never sit through your pain? That's the shift. That's when everything changes. When your silence becomes sacred, untouchable, not out of spite, but out of clarity. Because not every reaction deserves your voice. Not every insult needs an answer. Not every betrayal deserves your breakdown. Sometimes the real power is in not responding at all. Let them wonder. Let them spin stories. Let them drown in their own confusion while you grow in the dark. Quietly, powerfully. They'll say you think you're better, that you're arrogant now, that success changed you. Let them. They never knew the pain behind your strength. They never saw the nights you prayed for peace, the nights you nearly gave up. They weren't there when you carried burdens in silence. So no, they don't get a say in who you've become. You bled for this peace. You starved for this clarity. You crawled through darkness to find your own light. And now that you've found it, protect it with everything. Don't let them back in. Don't reopen doors just because they're knocking louder now. They're not sorry. They're just uncomfortable with the version of you that doesn't need them. You don't have to hate them. You don't even have to speak on them. Just stay quiet. Stay focused. Build your empire brick by brick while they gossip in the ruins of what they destroyed. Let them think you're cold, distant, unbothered. Let them feel the weight of your silence, because in the end, it speaks louder than any revenge, any confrontation, any dramatic exit. It says, you're not welcome in my peace. And that's the kind of message they never recover from. And one day they'll come back, maybe not with words, maybe not with apologies, but with silence of their own, hesitant silence, the kind that shows in the way they look at you without meeting your eyes, the way they linger around your name in conversations, the way they suddenly remember your worth after watching someone else try to replicate the things you gave so freely. But by then, it'll be too late. Because you're not who you used to be. You don't bleed the same. You don't crave their validation. You don't reach for hands that once let you fall. You've grown past the version of you that needed them. The one that lowered their standards just to feel loved. That person died in the silence. And what rose from those ashes? Unapologetic, unavailable, unbreakable. And that right there is the curse of those who live for chaos. They don't know how to handle peace when it walks away. They push and pull and poke until the calm snaps. And then when it doesn't, when it just vanishes, they panic. Because they never expected you to actually leave. They never thought you'd learn how to sit with your own silence, how to breathe without their noise. They thought they were the center of your world. And maybe for a while, they were, but not anymore. Now the only voice you hear is your own. And it's firm, cold, honest. You're not begging. You're not chasing. You're not shrinking to fit anyone's comfort. You've stopped pouring into cups that only ever leaked. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them try to make sense of your peace in a language they've never learned. They'll say you've changed, but they won't say why. They won't tell the world how many times they ignored your pain, how many times they turned their backs while you held everything together. No, people like them rewrite the story to make themselves look innocent. Let them. You don't need to clear your name in rooms you no longer walk into. Your silence is your statement. Your absence is your proof. You don't need a stage when you've outgrown the theater. You don't need applause when you're not performing anymore. Because now, you're building something real, something sacred, a life without the chaos, a routine that isn't dependent on their moods, their games, their fake affection. You've cut the strings. You've broken the cycle. You've chosen yourself. And that's a terrifying thing for people who only felt powerful when you were weak. They'll miss the access. They'll miss the version of you that would answer every call, forgive every sin, fix every fire they started. But that version is gone, replaced by a silence that demands respect, a presence that no longer begs to be seen, a force that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. So don't flinch, don't doubt, don't look back. Everything that left you made space for something greater. Everyone who disrespected you built the wall that now protects your peace. Let them sit in their chaos. Let them drown in the noise they created. You've moved on, quietly, powerfully, with nothing left to say. You see, people like to romanticize chaos when they're the ones who caused it. They'll call it miscommunication, a rough patch, say they were going through something, as if that justifies using your heart as a battlefield. But don't let those soft excuses fool you. Don't let nostalgia rewrite the trauma. They knew what they were doing when they ignored you, when they dismissed your silence, when they mocked your boundaries. They heard the crack in your voice when you said, "I'm tired." And they still asked for more. They saw your eyes go hollow from exhaustion and still demanded your light. And now they want to pretend it was all a misunderstanding. No, it wasn't confusion. It was convenience. You were easy to take from, and they took, until you had nothing left to give but silence. And that silence, that became your language, the purest one. It told the truth without begging. It drew the line without blood. Because chaos doesn't deserve poetry. Betrayal doesn't need closure. You think they'd understand, even if you wrote them 1,000 explanations. You think they'd wake up if you screamed loud enough? No, because they chose not to listen. They made a decision, whether out of arrogance or ignorance, to treat you like a side note. And now they want clarity? Let them find it in your absence. Let them chase the echoes of your silence like ghosts that haunt their peace. That's your justice, not revenge, not destruction, but evolution. They say silence is golden. No, your silence, it's platinum. It's the most valuable thing you own. You used to throw it away, fill it with apologies, with justifications, with tears. But now it's sacred. Now it's earned. Not everyone gets access to the new you. Not everyone gets to hear the sound of your peace. Let them wonder. Let them stay confused. Let them tell their versions to anyone who will listen. Because here's the truth. The ones who care they'll know. The ones who mattered, they never needed an explanation. And the ones who lost you, that's their punishment. Living in a world where your voice no longer lives for them. And yeah, it's lonely sometimes. Don't think I'm telling you this road is easy. It's cold. It's quiet. The nights are longer when you're not distracted by other people's noise. You'll sit with yourself and all the things you tried to ignore, all the wounds you hid under fake smiles and small talk. But that's when the healing happens, when it's just you, when no one's clapping, no one's calling, just silence. That's where you rebuild. That's where you become dangerous. Because once you've faced yourself, once you've sat in that darkness without reaching for someone to rescue you, you stop being breakable. You stop being available. And people hate that. They hate when the version of you they controlled becomes the version that controls the room without saying a damn word. So keep walking. Quiet, calm, sharp. You don't need to make announcements. You don't need to scream that you're healing. Just show up different. Show up colder. Show up unshaken. That's how you let them know. The chaos is over. You've closed the chapter. You've outgrown the war. And now you walk with silence like a blade. No fear, no weakness, just the quiet strength of someone who made it out alive.